Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me in this live stream this evening. I am live for about half an hour, and I'm just checking that on Facebook that I'm on. Yes, I am. I'm on. So if you're watching the replay, I don't see that anyone is on at the moment. So if you're watching the replay, do comment and say hello and let me know that you're watching the replay. I'd love to see that you're here. And as I go through this workshop, if you have any questions, whether you're watching live or you're watching on a replay or you're watching on YouTube on my website later when I put it up on my website, do ask questions in the comments wherever you happen to be watching it. I will answer your questions when I get to see them. So do ask the questions, and if you want to make sure that you get a quicker response, you can get in touch with me directly and I will definitely see your message then. So I've got somebody on. Let me just have a look if I can see on Facebook to see who you are, because BeLive isn't telling me. Is that Andre? Yeah, if you are on live, can you just let me know who you are, because BeLive isn't telling me who's commenting. So hello, I think it might be Andre. So hello to you, lovely. So the point of this workshop this afternoon, or this evening rather, is I wanted to talk a little bit about breath awareness and why it is so useful and important to become aware of your breath. Now, you breathe all the time. You know, you don't need to consciously breathe in order for your breath to happen. It's been happening since the moment you took your first breath when you came out of the womb. That was the very first thing you did. You took one breath. Okay, see you later. Let me know if you have any questions. Person who just commented. So yeah, we've been breathing our whole lives, and it's not something that you need to do consciously. You know, we need to make decisions to eat. You need to choose to eat. You need to choose to drink water or whatever you're going to hydrate your body with. I'm sorry, my bra straps are showing. Hi Zoe. So you need to eat, consciously choose to eat and drink, but we don't need to choose to breathe. And yet, we can last days without eating. We can last, I think we can last about a week without eating anything at all before we start to get seriously on the brink of starvation. We can last a couple of days without any water. But we can't last any length of time without breathing. You know, if you stop breathing for a few minutes, then you're in trouble. So breath is absolutely crucial to our survival. And yet it's something that we kind of take for granted. We don't really think about. Generally, the only time you're likely to think about your breath, until you've realized that you would benefit from thinking about it a bit more, is when there's an issue that stops your breath from functioning properly. So if you are exercising and you become out of breath, you notice your breath then. If you have a cold and your nose is blocked and you can't breathe through your nose, or if you have, say, a chest infection, and if you're an asthmatic, you become very conscious of when your breath doesn't work properly. I'm an asthmatic. I only ever thought about my breath when I couldn't breathe, when I was struggling to breathe. So I know that even though my entire life I've been acutely aware of the failings of my breath, I never really appreciated when it was working properly. So we live with this, you know, this thing that we take for granted, that the minute it stops, we are in trouble. But what we don't realize, and what most people don't realize, is that although we're doing the thing, although we're all breathing, most of us aren't doing it very well. Now, when you're born, your newborn body breathes perfectly. If you look at a baby, how they breathe, they're breathing into they've got teeny tiny little lungs, and they're using every millimeter of them. They are using every available space in their lungs. When you watch a baby breathing, their abdomens become really big relative to their body as they breathe in, and then when they breathe out, you see that relaxation of the lungs, you see that relaxation of the abdomen as they empty their lungs completely. So when we're born, we all breathe perfectly. And as we grow and we sit on comfortable sofas, I don't know about you, but I used to, in school, I would be sort of slouched like this, head on the desk, trying desperately to focus on what the teacher was saying or ignore what the teacher was saying, slouching all the time. We stand in a slouch, we sit in a slouch, we kind of hunched over. And the more we spend our lives sitting, which we do as a society, we are incredibly sedentary as a society, we slouch more and more and more and more and more and more. If you spend your days sitting at a computer, the chances are that you might start off fairly straight up, but by the end of the day, you're kind of like this. You might be leaning on one shoulder, one elbow, and we sit and we stand in really bad positions. And this has an impact on how we can breathe and how much lung capacity we have and how we breathe. If you go to a yoga class and you're doing some breathing exercise, the first thing that the teacher will tell you is to sit up straight, because you can't breathe properly if you're hunched over and you're kind of crushing your lungs. Not actually crushing them, but you're limiting your lung capacity. So you have to sit up straight in order to be able to breathe properly. So and because we don't do that, you can tell by looking at someone, if they're slouching, then they're not breathing properly. So we have to be aware of all of these things in order to breathe properly. We have to be aware of our posture, and we have to be aware of the fact that we're not breathing properly. Because, of course, we don't know that. Nobody realizes that they can't breathe, that they're not breathing properly. I tell people that I teach people how to breathe, and they look at me as if I'm a lunatic. Why do you need to teach me to breathe? I'm breathing right now. And I can see the sense in that question, because we don't realize that we're not doing it properly. And this is why I wanted to do this workshop, because the minute you start to be aware of your breath and actually kind of focus your attention on it, you start to realize just how you're not breathing properly. So very often when I take people through some of the practices that we're going to be doing now, and I talk about breath, people will come up to me afterwards, or they email me, or however they will contact me, and they say, yeah, I noticed I was just breathing here, or I was just breathing here, or I noticed I was barely breathing. Sometimes you suddenly realize you're hardly breathing at all. And in those moments, you might find that if you're working at something, perhaps you might suddenly find you need to take this huge breath because you've been engrossed in something and you haven't breathed properly for however long you haven't breathed properly. And we do need to breathe. So it's very important that we're breathing as well as we possibly can, as often as we possibly can. So I know that when we start to take a bit of notice of our breath, that things can change really quite rapidly in how we breathe. There's a saying, I don't know where it's come from. I think it you know what it's like on the internet. You see these quotes, you've got no idea who really said them, or if anybody really did. Or if, they're these inspirational quotes. I'm a bit skeptical about some of them, but there is this saying that I think comes from maybe Zen Buddhism, who knows, but what you focus on expands. So what you're focusing your attention on is naturally going to improve, because once you start to focus your attention on something, particularly if it's something in your body, it's like I have a theory that what it does is it kicks in the part of your brain that actually knows what it's supposed to be doing, but it's forgotten, or it's lost the habit and the practice of it. So very often I will find when I'm talking about breath to people, that they will say to me, when you were talking, I noticed my breathing started to slow down. I started to take deeper breaths. And because you're consciously thinking about your breath, your subconscious mind maybe kind of just naturally slows the breath down, or you become more conscious of it, so you're consciously slowing your breath down. It varies, it depends on whether you're consciously in charge of it, or if it's just your more primitive brain perhaps realizing that you're not doing it properly. I don't know about that. That's just a theory that I've developed through listening to people saying those things to me after talks. Excuse me. So Breath awareness is really important because, you know, with any problem, you don't know, you can't change something until you realize that there's an issue, that there's a problem. You know, I come from a very long background in addiction, even though I'm 20 years in denial. And as soon as I realized I had a drinking problem, I was able to do something about it. And that recognition of the problem is absolutely fundamental in being able to actually take the steps forward to solve that problem. You can't and you won't change a problem until you fully accept and acknowledge that it's there. So training yourself to become aware of your breath will raise your awareness of how poorly you breathe, how badly at certain times of the day maybe you breathe, and you might start to recognize your triggers. So we're going to explore that in a little bit. I also want to talk about breath and life and how the way that we breathe can impact on so much else of our life. Our breath is, as well as, you know, if you, like I've already said, if you stop breathing, you basically stop living. So breath is crucial at the most basic survival level. We need to keep breathing in order to keep living. But beyond that as well, the breath is absolutely intimately connected with our nervous system. The nervous system is what drives our emotions, what drives our reactions to the world, what creates physical responses and mental responses in our mind and body, depending on the external stimulus around us. So it's how we react to the world, and it is intimately connected to the breath. So if you think about how you breathe when you're feeling stressed, you know, you think about with that fast kind of shallow, almost hyperventilating sort of breath when we get stressed. You know, if you think about if you're really scared, you might hold your breath. You know, if you're watching a scary film, I mean, I've done it myself, watching something that's a bit scary, and you're like, and you hold your breath, waiting for the thing to jump out in the shadows at the person on the screen or whatever it is, and you're holding your breath because you're scared. And so breath when we're stressed is a held breath. It's like we're holding it all in us, and it becomes very tense and very difficult to breathe. And we breathe these shallow, short, and very erratic sort of breaths as well. And that is connected to the stress response in the nervous system. So if you're breathing like that naturally, you're already kind of in the stress response. So then if something happens that is going to make you feel stressed, you're kind of halfway there to that stress reaction, which you don't want to be already stressed when something that's going to challenge you is going to happen to you, because you're not in the best place to be able to deal with it in any other state of mind other than stress. You know, you're not going to be able to take that time to pause, to think, and to find a less emotionally driven response. And I could write several books about emotionally driven responses to challenging situations that I've got myself into, and it never ends well. You know, those are the sort of situations where later you think, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe I didn't really want to break up with him, and etc., etc. And you know, we find ourselves doing things that we may regret later. But the relaxed, slow breath, and I've already said the word there, the relaxed, slow breath that you can teach yourself to do, you can learn how to do, and that I can teach you to do. That is the relaxation response. That induces the relaxation response. So we know that when you're feeling stressed, somebody might say to you, right, take a deep breath, calm down, you know, take that deep breath. It allows your nervous system to come out of that flight or fight stress response and come into the relaxation response, and help you to calm down and bring you to that space where your mind is calm, your body is relaxed, and then you're able to look a bit more objectively at the situation and think, okay, what is the best thing to do in this situation? Instead of that, I'm going to kill you reaction that the stress response might be making you want to actually do. So we can through breath awareness and through learning to manage the breath, you can actually kind of take control of your emotional state. And I think if you can take control of your emotional state and you can manage your emotions, then you can control your life. You are in control of your life. If you can manage your responses to the world, and so that you know that whatever life throws at you, you are able to deal with it in a kind of calm, helpful manner. Life can throw whatever it wants at you, and you're going to deal with it in a way that isn't going to feel overwhelming. So this comes through awareness of the breath and through learning how to manage your breath, learning how to connect to your breath, how to recognize when you're not breathing in a way that helps you, and how to take that breath under your control. So this is what I love to share with people. This is what I love to teach, because this has helped me so much in my own journey through life in the last 5-6 years now, nearly, since I started learning to breathe. And I know that it has created change in my life that wouldn't have been possible had I not learned how to breathe and to take my emotions into control. And to some extent, now I have ADHD, so my emotional kind of scale is far wider than your neurotypical brain. So when I say I brought my emotions into control, it's still on a spectrum, So there's a lot that a lot that I can use my breath for to help with ADHD, for example, to help me to manage the symptoms of ADHD. And I'm learning more about this. I'm sure that once I've kind of processed all that in my head, I'm going to do something about that in here as well and share a little bit about that, because it's fascinating stuff. But I wanted to just take you through a couple of techniques. We've got about another 10 minutes. I'm only going to be able to do half an hour because I'm going out to go and have to climb. So I just wanted to take you through a couple of techniques and a couple of tips to help you to increase your awareness of your breath. Now, the first thing is to begin to create that sort of habit of checking in with your breath. So throughout your day, so this is something that you can do at any time of the day, and you can set up little triggers and little reminders for yourself to check in with your breath throughout the day, so you can start to see what is happening with your breath throughout the day. And this awareness that you can develop can be incredibly valuable in helping you to learn to understand yourself better. So maybe you can, if you've got one of these smartwatches, whether it's one like this, a Fitbit, or the Apple Watch, the Google Watch, there's all these other watches that have got alarms on them. You can set an alarm to go off on your smartwatch, on your phone, maybe every hour throughout the working day, perhaps. Set an alarm to go off and just, for a couple of seconds, just check in and see what's happening with your breath. Now, for extra bonus, not points, because this isn't competitive, but extra bonus benefits, if you notice, if you can, make a little note at the time of what you're doing and how you're feeling and how your breath is. And then you might start to see that there's a pattern. You might start to notice that, at 8:30 in the morning, when I'm trying to get the kids out of the house and I am running late for work, my breath is all over the place and I can barely catch a breath. At lunchtime, when I'm sitting with my lunch and my colleague and we're just having a chat, my breath is nice and calm. And, you might notice that there's a link between, or you will notice the link that exists between your breath and your emotions and what you're doing as well. And so you may start to see some triggers, like if you're going in for a meeting, you're going for your monthly or weekly meeting, team meeting, check in with your breath, see how you feel in those team meetings, before those team meetings. If you're about to start making a day of sales calls, for example, check in and see how you feel about that. Check in and see how you're feeling before you do that, and then see how you're feeling after that, and just check in with your breath and start to learn how your breath is in various situations. You might find, you might find that you learn an awful lot about yourself through doing that. It is a really helpful exercise. Another thing that you can do is if you commute, now this is a really good one, if you are a commuter, driver, or on public transport, that can be fiercely stressful, can't it? I'm going to be starting doing that myself in a few weeks' time, and I'm not looking forward to it, I must say. But what you can do is, if you're stuck in traffic every day for, say, journey would take you half an hour normally, and it takes you an hour and 20 minutes to get to work on time. That in itself is quite stressful. And you might find that you get into work every morning and you're really irritated every day because you're stuck in the same traffic every day and it never changes. And it's, you in the car thinking of all the other things you could be doing, and it's really challenging. But the thing is, you're there in the car and you have to do this. So you can choose to change your experience of that. So you could make a point of focusing on your breath and just taking nice, slow, deep breaths during that time. And instead, no, you're not in a sitting on your yoga mat, closing your eyes way. Obviously, you can drive and focus and keep your mind present to your breath. So you're still aware of what's going on around you. You're still aware of the other traffic, keeping you completely safe. And you can still connect to your breath and breathe well. And in fact, it might even make you a safer driver because you will be keeping yourself calm. So you're less likely to get angry at the person who cuts in front of you, or, slamming the brakes on really fast because you're having to stop again in the traffic jam. So it might just keep you calmer, and it'll make your journey more bearable. And you will find that that changes the day as well then, because you're going to be arriving to work in a different frame of mind, and that will change how you experience the rest of the day. Another one for in the car is if you stop at a red light. Every time you stop at a red light, check in with your breath. See what your breath is doing, take a couple of deep breaths, and away to go. Now, the other way, another way that you can learn to become aware of your breath and start to become really connected to your breath is by taking a time every day, just a few minutes every day, to just sit and breathe and observe your breath and not be doing anything else. You can bring your attention to your breath at any time of day. When you're out walking, when you're washing the dishes, when you're watching the TV, you can always check in and become aware of your breath. But if you want to do this, if you want to start improving your breath and get the benefits that you can get from good breathing, then if you combine that with a few minutes every day of conscious focus time with your breath, you're going to see even more benefits, because in that time where the only thing you're doing is focusing on your breath, then you're going to really become aware of your breath, and you're going to become aware of how much noise there is in your head and how many repetitive thoughts you might be having and how easily distracted your mind is, and all the things that make people think that they can't sit down and focus on their breath. You'll become aware of, because they are all there, and they will all happen. Take it from someone who's been trying to do this for years with ADHD. It happens a lot. So, that sitting quietly and focusing on your breath, it isn't about slowing the breath down unless you choose to. It isn't about trying to empty your mind, because unless you are very far along the road with these kind of meditative practices, and if you're in this group, then the chances are you're probably not that far down the road. I mean, I'm certainly not. So if you are, then maybe you should teach me. It's not about those things. It's not about getting absolute stillness. It's not about getting absolute. It's about training yourself to become aware of what's happening. So it's about becoming aware of your breath. It's about becoming aware of when you get distracted, and then when you are distracted, pull your attention back to the breath. You might notice that you've spent a minute of your 5 minutes that you're going to sit quietly thinking about what was on TV last night. And that's fine, because that's your mind doing what your mind does. It's going to do that. It's not your brain. Your mind is designed for thinking. That's its job. And so it's just doing its job, and it does it really well. But what you want to do is try and get your mind under a bit of conscious control, so that when you get distracted by a thought, you can say, no, 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 we're not thinking about that now. We're thinking about this. So you can start to bring your conscious awareness back to where you want it to be. And that then helps with things like focus. It helps with calming. So, you know, if you find that you get caught up in, what's the word, rumination. If you get caught up in rumination, where you're going over the same thought over and over and over again, you can train yourself to take your attention away from that. And these breath practices are really powerful in helping you to do that. So I've got a couple of minutes now before we end. I'm going to take you through just a minute of doing this sitting and just focusing on the breath. We're not going to try changing the breath. There are, you know, at other times I will guide you through slowing and relaxing the breath, but now we're just going to notice what our breath is doing. So bring your hands together. If you want to join in first, bring your hands together so they clasp together, and the right finger is dominant over the left. Okay, so the right finger there is on top. You're going to drop your hands down into your lap. Obviously, you can't see my lap because the table's in the way. And then I want you to sit up as straight as you can. Relax your shoulders and have your head up. So your spine is straight. You've still got the natural curve in it. Don't try it, you know, there is a natural curve to the spine, but you'll go straight as you can, and you've got the full available space of your lungs. And plant your feet. If you're sitting on a chair like I am, sitting on a hardback chair at my dining table, plant your feet flat on the floor so that you're connected to the ground below you. And close your eyes if you're comfortable to. If you don't want to, you don't have to, but try and just lower your gaze so you're not kind of staring at the screen. Just lower your gaze down. And then I want you to just bring your attention to your breath. So you're just noticing your breath. We're not going to change the breath at all. Just noticing what the breath is doing. So notice if you're breathing through your nose or your mouth, first of all. What are the physical ways that you're breathing? Notice if your breath is fast or slow. Notice if it's shallow or deep. There's no right or wrong here. This isn't about breathing in a certain way. This is about seeing where you are right now. We can't begin anything from anywhere other than where we are. So just see where you are. Notice if your breaths are shallow, equal in length, or if they may be a little more erratic. So some are short and some are long. Just noticing as well, where in the lungs is the breath going? You can tell this by noticing which parts of the body are expanding as you breathe in. So is your chest sticking out? Are your shoulders rising? Is your abdomen expanding? Is your abdomen contracting? Just noticing where in your body is moving in response to the breath. Because this tells you which part of your lungs you're breathing into. You might be breathing into the whole of the lungs, but in all honesty, you're quite likely to not be, and that's fine. That's where most people are breathing from. And so just stay focused on the breath. And keep noticing, keep connecting, and seeing how it feels to bring your attention this closely to your breath. And you may notice that actually your breath is slowing. You may not, and that's fine. But sometimes people find that when they start to pay attention to the breath, it starts to slow quite naturally. Yours might, or it might not. Mine does, but that's because I've been practicing slow breathing for quite a long time now. So mine automatically does. And it will come with practice. Okay, so we just had a little minute to check in with the breath. And so open your eyes if you had them open. Give your arms a little shake and just wake the body up. Start to move a little and come back into the moment now. Come back to the workshop. So that was just a very simple technique that you can use to connect with your breath. Now that is the subject and the exercise of the 5-minute breath, which is my free, it's a 10-day free mini course. So I think I may have called it a challenge somewhere on my website, but I don't like the word challenge for this. It's not a challenge. It is an exploration, and it gives you a short video that you can follow to guide you through this practice of connecting with your breath for just 5 minutes every day. 5 minutes a day to focus your attention onto your breath can change quite a lot about how you feel. This practice of sitting quietly with your breath can help to relax you. It can help to focus your attention. It can be a really good way to clear your mind of all the clutter in your mind. Even if it feels like you're cluttered when you're doing the practice, you will still come away feeling a little less cluttered. These practices are very good for a good way to start the day. It's a good way to end the day, to relax your mind and your body before you go to sleep. Great way to start the day, to kind of clear the, you wake up sometimes and you're still carrying the night's dreams with you, and you may be rushing, thinking about everything you've got to get done in the day. 5 minutes to just settle the body and settle the mind into the day can make everything else feel a whole lot better. So I'm going to just quickly bring up the URL for the 5-minute breath program for you so that you can join this. It's a bit too long for the screen banner, but I'll post the link of this into the comments as well for you. So if you do wish to join this, it's completely free. You'll get an email with a video of a practice. It's 5 minutes. And then you'll get an email from me every day to kind of remind you and hopefully inspire and motivate you to practice. And there's a printable journal that you can download and print so that you can record your experiences, because one of the most powerful tools that we can use in any kind of personal spiritual growth practice is reflecting on what's happening to us through the practice, what's happening in our minds, what's happening in our body, and what's happening in our emotions. So if you can just use a notebook, just jot down how you feel at the start of the practice, note down how you feel after, maybe note down how you feel through the rest of the day, and just reflect on what the practice is giving to your life. And you can also, of course, share your journey with this breath practice in the Facebook group. And I would love to hear from you if you are on the course, if you are doing the practices, and to see how it was working out for you. I know that my day starts a lot better. My day goes a lot better, rather, when I start with 5 minutes sitting on my yoga mat and breathing. I sometimes do more, but very often I just do 5 minutes. And that is enough. You don't have to spend hours in sitting, breathing. You obviously get different benefits if you do, but you still get a lot of benefits from any time you spend doing this. So that is all I wanted to share with you tonight. I hope that you found this useful. I said, if you do have any questions, if you have any comments, please ask away. I will answer every question that you give me. If I don't know the answer, I will go off and find out for you. And if you have any suggestions, any ideas of anything else that you'd like me to cover in live streams in this group, I would love to have your suggestions. I really want to know what I can, how I can help you. You're the reason this group exists. So please do let me know how I can help you, what you need some support with, and what I can teach you to make your life better. So I'm going to go and get ready now to go climbing. I just started indoor climbing with my son and one of my best friends. And me and my friend are going tonight to learn how to do it independently. So very excited. I'm going to be completely exhausted by the time I get home with very stiff, achy arm muscles, I'm sure, but I'm really excited. So have a lovely evening. Those of us in the UK, it's evening. If you're elsewhere in the world, have a lovely whatever time of day it is. And I will see you soon. Lots of love. Bye.